Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast, hosted by Mhkeeba
and Brittany, two former NFL cheerleaders discussing hot topics in the pro cheerleading industry
and revealing the truth behind the poms.
We're now live.
Come
sit over here. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. We're trying to act like we have our shit together, but in actuality,
To be honest, hopefully you guys are sipping on something at home on this wonderful Tuesday evening.
hopefully you've recovered from your Halloween weekend festivities, which may have occurred. We tried to get our swerve on, okay, and it just did not come together.
Did not.
Our girls were completely burnt out from
Jasmine's
Leavenworth.
on. Sorry.
Jasmine! Oh, shoot. Hi, sweetheart. Okay. P.S. We do want to talk to you about your whole transition from Washington, D.C. to Atlanta and how you have, managed the whole, auditioning in another city and moving and not knowing your whole life story until it all plays out. We need to talk.
She's killing it, though.
We need to talk. And they danced with Oscar Hernandez. Did you see?
I did see that.
Oh, my gosh.
We
So
need to
good.
hear about that, too.
So, Jasmine, clear it with your director. We're going to need to talk to you.
Yep.
Okay. So, we tried to kick it over the weekend, and we did not make it.
Because we're going hard this Thursday.
This Thursday, you guys, marks the official 1-year celebration of the podcast, and Brittany and I have committed to getting our lives together for some Halloween festivities. Brittany, did you tell them your costume? Tell them again.
Did I say? I already said.
No,
yeah,
whatever.
but
Tell it again. Say it again.
it's going to be Cardi B from the twerk video with
a Bengal booty.
Yeah,
Is it a
Bengal booty.
Is it a Bengal booty?
But is it Miami Girls? Or what's it called? Who are they
City
called?
Girls?
City Girls.
City
There's
Girls
a girl
twerk.
named Miami.
There's a twerk situation. You guys, I look pregnant because I have a whole blanket, but it's fall and it's cold and whatever. Let's just bundle up. All right. But it's City Girls Cardi, right? It's the twerk video, and she's dressed like a little Bengal, and she's all decked out.
Oh, is it a Bengal?
I don't know what the hell that was. It was some animal that's
It's
orange
a
and black.
tiger.
Bengal tiger. Bengalese
Oh,
tiger?
yeah, that's the same thing.
An animal. Okay.
An animal. You should be the, black and white panther one.
I cannot.
Bodysuit.
You guys, I'm having I'm getting self-conscious about my dream vision of
And
my
she
coming to
shouldn't.
America moment. I have the dress, I got the train, I got the
Hair
all
unlock.
these things, the hair. And I'm just scared because I don't have a Prince Hakeem who's going to have the lion on his shoulder where people are not going to know who I am. And the whole night, after all this whole to-do, that nobody's going to know who I am. And so I'm maybe I should just dress up as what people call Big Bird, but it's my yellow Brazilian samba dancer outfit. And I swear, okay, maybe somebody knows. There was a video by Nicki Minaj, I believe, where it's an upbeat song and it's not even Caribbean vibes, but she's in the video walking the streets of the Caribbean with a carnival dancers, and she's dressed up like one and with some tennis shoes on, as a matter of fact. And I just feel maybe you should just be Cardi B and I should be Nicki Minaj.
Maybe. They don't like each other, though. And we love each other.
But we're going to be fighting for that freaking Halloween costume.
Are they even
contest.
having one? We need to confirm that, actually.
Don't we want that money, though?
Yeah.
I feel if you go all out in this Bengal costume with your hair and the whole nine and all the paint and shit, you should win something. And if I do the whole, whether it's the yellow Big Bird outfit or the Queen to Be outfit from Coming to America, I better win some contests. That's how I'm feeling.
We'll have to do,
I'll kick someone's ass so we can win. Anyway,
we're going to win. We'll keep you posted on that.
I'm trying to get it together, but we are going to celebrate regardless because it is our actual official anniversary. We have the Cheerversary party coming up on Saturday,
Yay.
And we're super excited. Well, actually, okay, we're excited, but also having diarrhea, nervous. Mm-hmm. Should we be real about it? Truth behind the palms. Okay, here's the deal, guys.
Who's coming?
When you host a party, you start to worry oh my God, nobody's going to show up. And for us, it's not even just nobody show up in person, right, in Seattle, Washington, but also virtually. So this is a first, but we want people to show up online because our listeners are everywhere. They're all over the world, literally. And we want people to tune in. We have no idea what time zone people are in, what they're doing on a Saturday. But the idea is please show up because it's nerve-wracking to think that you're trying to make sure you have enough food and drink and this and this and that. And it's just going to be fun. Like, honestly, we just want to have fun because it'll take away the nerves. And so, even if it's just the two of us, though, we already had our little powwow over a drink.
Yeah, we did. But we don't know what we're doing, so that's key. So kind of like with this whole podcast, we're really like...
Faking it until we make it, man.
We don't know what we're doing it.
We don't know what we're doing, but we're gonna figure it out. The point is, it's gonna be us just talking shit. We're gonna get cute a little bit. Don't get your hopes up. It's gonna be like pumping up for the party, but just celebrating how far we've come, because we know between the two of us like how amazing this journey has been. How we just didn't know what we were getting into, and it's turned into something crazy and exciting, and we're really super proud of it. So even if it's just the two of us, Brittany, we're gonna toast it up.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
Let's toast it up now.
Let's do it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What are
to
we
us.
sipping on?
What is this drink called? It's like Bang.
It's the Bang energy drink and vodka. Yay.
So I could be up all night editing. Okay, let's talk. Can we talk about what our episode is?
Yeah, it's actually a really serious topic.
I know. Why are we drinking?
Because it's so serious.
Ooh, you made that strong.
Did I?
It's okay.
Sorry.
Can handle it. I'm grown. No, but okay, let's do it. I think we needed to kind of like woosah off of the edge, because this is a very serious topic. We wanted to make sure that when talking about this, that we were trying to be mindful of how serious the topic is, how much people really struggle with it, and we weren't exactly, between the two of us, equipped with, all that goes into it. Like, we definitely had our share of stress, definitely had our share of like what we call seagull anxiety, like around the experience of just managing it all, having your shit together 24/7, having your look together 24/7. And we see the lasting effects of what sticks with you after this experience is over. And we just wanted to try to talk about it in a way that was responsible. But then we came across a wonderful woman that some of you may have heard about, some of you may not have, but we interviewed Kristan Ann Ware, which is easier to say Kristan Ware. She was a former cheerleader for the Miami Dolphins, and if you don't know, she sued them for religious discrimination, and you'll hear all about her experience in this episode. But what we really wanted to...
Oh, well, I was just going to say, it's kind of coming full circle, because Mhkeeba came up with the idea of even starting the podcast based on what was happening to her and a few others who decided to, file lawsuits against their team and fight against it. And it's just funny because you'll hear it in the interview that we were like scared to reach out to her when we first started the podcast. And she was like, you could have reached out like day one. She followed us pretty early on too when we started the podcast.
True, she did.
So she's always been in the back of our mind, but yeah, we kind of felt nervous to even reach out to her.
Well, because I think when you think about people who sued, like I'm, as a former lawyer, I know what all goes into that. It's not a light decision that you make. It's costly. It's scary. It's so much more involved, like the litigation process of all the depositions where you're taking sworn testimony. You have to have witnesses. Like, there's so much that's involved in it. And I know that when it hit the press that they were doing a lot of interviews with their attorneys. And so I'm thinking there's no way they're going to do our rinky-dink ass podcast interview.
Right.
You know what I mean? To like talk about their case when it's ongoing. Oftentimes when you're in the middle of litigation, you have to really be careful about the statements that you're making and how it impacts the case. So, we've been tracking it for a while, but she did inspire our Shut Up and Dance episode, where are you allowed to advocate for what you believe in? Do you have the same rights and protection as some of the players do in talking about their faith? And it was just something that we always had monitored, but to actually be able to talk to her and one-on-one and hear her story and what ended up happening to her was definitely a moment. And I have to say that, like, what we saw in the headlines
was just the tip of the iceberg, honestly.
Yeah.
And she's so well-spoken and just so generous with her time and energy, and just she's probably told that story like 50 million times, but you got emotional actually when we were interviewing her.
I cried.
I'm just not very emotional person, but I was crying on the inside.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm a hugger. I'm an emotional person. I'm very passionate, as y'all probably know, but I just was really just trying to be empathetic and putting myself in her shoes. And I'm like, damn, like, you actually went through a lot. And I just think it really hit me, not that we questioned it ever, but just it really hit me what her motivation was, like that it really was coming from a genuine place of trying to make things better. You know what I mean? Because if you're experiencing that level of just getting fucked with, let's just keep it real. You aren't the only one on a team that's getting fucked with, right? Like, let's just be clear. You know, not to speak on her behalf, but I just think that she was trying to fight for herself, but in a way that was also just hopefully making it better for everybody. And I think that's probably something that's so easily misunderstood from some of these women that have come forward to sue their teams, is that somehow they've ended up on like no man's island in pro cheerleading. Like, you know, the Buffalo Jills cheerleader that sued to address the unfair employment practices, if you will, or pay, you know, they get rid of their whole entire cheerleading program. And so maybe she caught hella heat that was not justified because people were pissy because she spoke up. She killed the program.
Yeah. Or worried that the program was going to get eliminated.
Exactly.
And it's such a fun experience, you know. So many people have such a positive experience that, you know, you're so desperately trying to hold on to that.
Yeah. Because it's not all bad. You know what I mean? It's not like you hate every minute of it just because you can still love your job and still fight for your rights because the shit's not right.
It's almost like you love it so much and you see the potential of it being better. And better for yourself and better for
other
future people. Like, she talks about that. Like, she just discusses about, basically, she thought about the next generation to audition and thought about how she wanted them to experience it versus how she did.
Exactly.
Despite what she experienced.
Exactly.
You know?
And, I mean, what we realized, I think, in talking to Kristan, it was just that, you know, it's awkward when you're interviewing someone for the first time and you're trying to be respectful of their space around especially a sensitive topic. Like this topic, like just to rewind, was supposed to be around mental and emotional health and well-being. And it was a post from Kristan that I probably should have printed out that made me finally like, you know what, I'm just going to reach out to her and say, like, we should talk. Because at the end of the day, what she experienced and trying to fight for her rights with respect to whatever went down with the Miami Dolphins, I could tell it took an emotional and mental toll on her. And I wanted to talk to her in connection with this episode to just understand what that looked like, how that showed up for her. And in talking to her, I mean, she walked us through what happened and like the ins and outs of it all. But I personally kind of felt like the conversation wasn't done. This is something that we're going to break up into 2 episodes, you know, and Brittany couldn't join us the second time and it was fine, but we just needed to dig a little deeper, right? I mean, just
to kind of like set the scene for you guys. Basically, we couldn't be together to record the first part that you're going to hear tomorrow. And Kristan and myself were sitting in our car. My car actually died on me. I mean,
did you have to do the jumper cable?
I had to jump it.
Frick.
But like our phones were dying. Maybe Mercury was in retrograde that day. I don't know. But a lot of weird things were happening.
Yeah.
So the conversation was so good and juicy, and like, again, we were getting emotional and really there with her, but technology was dying on us, literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mhkeeba kind of capped it off because there was so much more to uncover with her. And so on Thursday, we're going to launch the second half where basically it's just Mhkeeba and Kristan. I'm excited to hear.
It was something that needed to be just explored a little deeper. And I think, you know, one of the things that we wanted to talk about for Cheer Chat today is a documentary that we've been tracking actually ever since we launched this podcast. They had just started, I think, their Kickstarter campaign to raise money. And I say they, like it's a fucking army.
Ooh.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Like it was a huge effing army.
God dang it. Here we go. I mean, I shouldn't have picked my drink up when I said that. That means I should put it down. But this woman is a one-woman show, but her name is Wee-Goo, okay? I got it right.
She's from Vancouver, BC.
Yes, and so she, about a year ago, because it was right around the time that we started, she had launched a Kickstarter campaign to finish this documentary that was going to focus on NFL cheerleaders suing their teams around, like, wage issues and
a variety
of issues, but like I think she was swayed by what happened with the Buffalo Jills at the time. You know, had the Oakland Raiders cheerleader that sued for unfair pay and like unpaid wages, and so she decided to pursue this and to explore this and film it as a documentary. And so she covers like a few NFL cheerleaders through their process of litigating against the teams. And so luckily, I mean, not even luckily, through her hard work and sweat and tears, right, she gets the documentary done. And lately she has been on a tour, basically, of all these film festivals in different cities throughout the country. And we couldn't be more excited for her. I mean, she told us it's basically like a one-woman show, so I'm even more impressed.
It's just her.
But she's been doing like these film festivals like Tribeca, you know, LA, like Buffalo, New Orleans. She was just in Milwaukee. And so she screens her documentary. She also has like panel discussions around like gender discrimination, like pay equality, like different things. And I think it's phenomenal. And we want her to come to Seattle so bad. And we're going to figure this shit out because she has to come. She has to come. We want to see this film too, obviously.
Oh, totally. She might send us a link, so we might be able to preview it a little bit. But yeah, they have an Instagram page, and
A Woman's Work is the name of the documentary. We'll link it to this episode so that you guys can check it out. So the part that struck me too about our interview with Kristan in this episode, and you'll hear it in part 2 because I kind of went off, just forewarning you guys, on a freaking tangent. But, you know, when I think of what inspired us to start the podcast and thinking of these different women's journey and knowing what it takes to actually start litigation, it's not a joke. You know, there's not just lawyers' fees and lawyer interaction, but you're actually doing sworn depositions. There's so many steps in the process. So this is not something that we can really take lightly, like, oh, she did it for the fame, or she just wanted to. No. Like, there's no spotlight. It's not glorious, okay? The litigation process.
I can't even imagine.
Especially when you're going against a team with their legal team and their law firms. NFL. Like, it's not a joke. And so these women stuck their necks out trying to make it better for everybody. They've managed to win settlements to get women paid for basically unpaid labor. And that's after, like, 2 years of being caught up in the court process. So, like, they have done so much. And the part that really broke my heart, I don't know to speak for you, but like, they have somehow become like the black sheep of pro cheerleading. Like, they lost friendships. People don't talk to them anymore.
They can't make it onto any other teams.
Their dance careers are over.
Right,
their dance careers are over. I personally, you know, with the podcast, just felt like, and hopefully, you know, we're not trying to be preachy. I'm trying to edit out my like rampage, but I just think that, you know, as a community, we have to come together to like support these women because they did stick their neck out. They did it because, not because they were looking forward to destroy the name and the reputation of their programs. They did it because they were really trying to make a difference and make it better. They knew what they were doing was illegal. Like, that's all. It was just illegal, you know, like, that's it. It's not like, oh, I just feel like I'm being treated unfairly. No, you broke the law. And I just think that they were hoping to make it better for everybody, and the fact that they are like ostracized breaks my heart. That's why I couldn't like let the interview with Kristan go, because we left it and it was great, but it was just like, this is not how it's supposed to be. And around mental and emotional health and well-being, it's just like, people need to understand that we are a community of people. Like, we all should be able to relate to one another on a level that nobody else will. For people who are aspiring to be pro cheerleaders or people who have been pro cheerleaders, like, our world is something that, unless you're part of it, you won't know what any of it means. You won't understand any of it. And the least we can do for people who have experienced and walked our shoes and then try to do something to like make it better, the least we can do is support them. So hopefully this won't be controversial to people, but we did interview Kristan, and we were so thankful for her level of vulnerability and openness with us, because we didn't want to like just dive all in and like asking her a million questions, which is another reason why it was nice to come back to have the conversation a second time to say, oh, is it okay to kind of like probe a little deeper on things? So we're excited to share part 2 with you guys, and we just encourage you to just, this is meant to generate discussion, meant to build community, but think about that. I mean, not to just liken it to civil rights, but I just can't imagine like the civil rights figures that we have on such a high pedestal that have made huge strides in making a difference in the civil rights movement, that they would have been like, and I know that there was some of that obviously at the time, but just for them to be outcasts and just left on no man's island while they're doing it is really, really heartbreaking. You wouldn't even imagine
it. Wouldn't have made a change without the support. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
That like, is exactly
the more the people support and agree and just uplift these people who have such a strong message and are trying to make it better for everybody in that community. If they didn't have that, there would have been no change.
No movement. There would have been no movement. I have to keep checking myself of like, yo, we're obviously retired. You know, I'm obviously older. My birthday's in a week. And I'm like thinking back to my 20-year-old self and thinking like, how would I have handled this situation, or, you know, this and this and that. But I just think on a personal level, in terms of integrity and trying to like live my truth, but also just kind of standing up for what's right and what's wrong. Like, even if it means that I'm sacrificing what seems like the only opportunity on God's green earth that I can ever do anything. But I would want to feel like, you know what? I did what I felt was right, and I'm good with it. Mm-hmm. And that's how I try to live my life. And I'm not trying to sound preachy. And I know I was on a tangent, so I'm like, let me go back and listen to that and make sure that I'm not sounding like, you know, because it's not about that. It really broke my heart listening to Kristan's first interview to hear of how alone she was. Mm-hmm. And it was like, dang, why didn't we reach out sooner? Like, we were just so young starting off that we didn't really know, you know, that it would have been.
I think that's a key word, and maybe I'm quoting her wrong, but she does mention in her interview how the teams do pick the girls young, and we can't confirm that this is the reason, but exactly, it's kind of like, open your mind if you're on a team or thinking about being on a team, even though you're young. And I mean, I just feel like, just stay woke. Right? Try to stay woke and just like realize that even though you're young, like, you can contribute and make change. Like, Kristan is an example of that. I think she's so more mature, and I don't know how to explain it, but she just, help me.
No,
just kidding. But I think I'm ruining it.
What was
too much vodka?
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, if I would have known that when I made the team, I think I would have had a way different experience those 6 seasons I was on the team.
For sure.
And it would have been more amazing, not hindered it.
So that's the thing. Yeah. Like, about this episode, not to bring it back to the whole emotional and mental health aspects of it, but I think what we're hoping is that we can just share just what would have actually, like, if we had our mind right about what we were entering into. And you have no way of knowing as a rookie. You don't know what the hell you have signed up for.
You'll say yes to anything just because you're a rookie and you want to be involved, and you want to please.
You want the approval of your director. You want
to make it onto show group. You want to travel. You want to
like
impress
the rookies. I mean, the vets.
Like,
you know, you want
do
the
everything.
Vets. You do everything.
With no question and nothing. You don't question anything. They say jump, and you literally say
high.
how high.
How high, and do I need to jump over a mountain? Like, what you need me to do? I'm game for it. And I was telling Kristan in the part 2, it's just like, you guys, I mean, you see me now with my mouth and like my whole attitude, but when I was in my 20s, I was actually worse. Like, I actually, you couldn't tell me shit. It wasn't even a chip on my shoulder. I just knew who I was. You couldn't treat me any different.
You're very unique as it is, but that's rare. Okay, like, I'm almost 30 and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I barely brush my hair on a daily, like I don't even know how to figure my life out. So when I'm interviewing these people and they're like, you know, 5 years, it's not that big of a difference, but it is. Yeah. Like, doing this podcast with you, I've learned so much more. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wish I could go back in time and do all of my experiences again, because it would have been so much more different.
But anyways. But it's true. But like, in talking to her, I was kind of like, I'm almost scared, because in my 20s, if I had done something like Seagulls, I would have been like, oh, hell no. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I would have been probably even more out of pocket. And I only say that to say that, you know, as you get older, you realize, you know, what battles are worth fighting and, like, how to navigate through certain difficult situations. But I know I had my coming to, like, not coming to Jesus, but coming to, you know, something moment where I had to, like, check myself. Like, look, Mhkeeba Pate, you have not, like, nutted up and shrank for anybody ever. Like, you have been around CEOs, you have been around far more important people than what's going on with this particular organization. Why are you tripping? Like, why are you acting like you don't have a brain? You can't think for yourself. You can't.
When you made Seagulls, you felt like that?
Oh, hell yeah.
Why?
Huh? Why?
Yeah, tell me why. Come on.
I mean, so
I made the team at 21.
Yeah, and I made it at like 31 or 30. I don't even remember what age was I. Something like that. It doesn't
matter, but
something like that.
It's just interesting that it basically made you shift who you've always been.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, why? Is it because it was the NFL, or like you really wanted it?
For me, it was more like, this is still an employer. I still viewed it as a job, and so I knew that in any other job, some of the things that were going down would not have been acceptable.
Yeah.
So I was still trying to process that and kind of like, why am I treating this any differently than I would any other role? And so that's kind of where it all started. And then I was just trying to think, like, based on everybody else's reaction to interacting with our director, I was kind of like, okay, I get that she needs to be respected and revered, but it was like, it's not that serious. And I had to kind of like, when have you ever acted this way? Like, I had to talk to myself, like, Mhkeeba, when have you ever acted like you can't speak up or ask a question? And always being respectful, of course, but kind of like, why is this?
Why are you being silenced?
Yeah.
Why did you feel like you needed to be quiet?
I had a brain when I walked in here.
Quiet, okay?
No, I'm not. I had a brain when I walked in here, and it didn't just like jump out of my head because I'm now part of the NFL or a team or whatever. And so I struggled with that my rookie year. And truth be told, hey, I didn't make it my my second year. I auditioned and I did not make it. I don't think it was like a kawinka-dink. Like, I probably talked and questioned my way off of that team. But at the end of the day, certain things didn't sit well with me of being right. And I questioned it. And I wasn't like trying to question authority, but I was just kind of like, excuse me. So I just think that at the end of the day, what I was trying to get at was just that it's finding your space. I mean, I was older, so for me, I was a lot more maybe secure in who I was as a person and how I viewed my involvement with Seek. I was like, this is just the extra on top. So like, I have a career, I have a sense of self, I know what my worth is, and so this is just supposed to just be fun, and you know what I mean? And if it's not fun, or if it turns into be like a unfair or toxic environment, I'm going to question things. And you know, I just think, to your point, if we knew or had the support system, and that was something that Kristan mentioned, like wishing that the podcast would have been around for her the year that she went through all that struggle, because then she would have probably at least had somebody that she could talk to. And that's something that we wanted to say. And of course, we don't have our phones handy, but we do have a hotline, you guys.
It's on our Instagram. There's a button to contact us, and
yes,
there is a phone number, and we get all the text messages or voicemails that you leave. Yeah. There's actually a really cheesy, if you just want to listen to the cheesy voicemail that I recorded in my car.
Please do.
I think I do all my work in my car. Listen to it. Don't leave a message. Breathe heavily into the phone. Whatever you like.
We love that. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, just like leave us a message. We've had a few people reach out on it and literally just like venting.
Because I think that's what we covered under like this part 2, was just that we at least can relate to one another of what we experience, like how some things may not seem like a big deal, especially when you're talking to your friends and family who don't do this. They're probably like, just quit. If you don't like it,
My sister told me that.
She told you to quit?
When she, like, I think I turned down maybe some festivities, like it was Christmas, and I said, oh, I can't eat that. And then my sister was like, I don't know how you do that. Like, I don't do well with authority. Maybe that's a personal thing. Yeah. But, like, I don't know how you're on this team that's so, like, restricted. But yeah. I really wanted it, and, you know, for other reasons. But it's so true. Like,
you stick
people
it out.
Don't get it. People really don't get it.
On the outside,
that's what I'm saying. Even my
it.
sister, who I'm super close with, they don't get why you're fighting for your spot or to stay on it or what have you.
And
they just don't get it.
Yeah, and fighting through difficult situations.
But we do.
But we do get it, and we're not licensed therapists, but we really, really, really wanted to do this episode just to say that you're not alone. The best that we can, just be a sounding board, a sense of support, maybe helping you navigate through situations. Like, we don't get every squad dynamic, but we get the certain politics apply, right? But I think we can kind of like speak to maybe just a way that you can handle a certain situation that might not get you in more shit, you know, in more trouble, or paint you in a certain light. But we just want to help be there for people who, because we haven't experienced personally anxiety. I mean, depression maybe with something outside of cheerleading, but I can relate to a whole effing lot, put it that way. Or I can definitely empathize and put myself in your shoes. And so I just want to welcome anybody to reach out to us, whether it's DMs, voicemail,
email us.
Like, we are here for you, because I just think at the end of the day, you deserve that support system. We are a community, and one thing that came out of homegirl, I say homegirl a lot, home chick sometimes, but one thing that came out of Kristan's interview was just, she said, I am her. And that really stuck with me, because if we look at it that way, you know, what if that happened to me? it's just that empathy where you're just like, yo, if I actually went through the shit that she went through.
Yeah, and she didn't expect any of her teammates to like quit or whatever. It was, she just wanted basically another teammate to be like, I feel you, girl, I support you. Like, she literally had people unfollowing her and blocking her that she considered friends on the team. So like, that's not okay. It doesn't matter who it is. You just don't treat people like that.
No.
You know what I mean? And like, it's like the world of trolls and the internet, and there's crazy people on it, you know, but for somebody that you know and like see on a weekly, daily basis,
who saw what you actually experienced like firsthand,
right,
and then it won't stand for you. It's like,
I don't know if you included it, but like actual physical abuse, like they witnessed it and then still decided to block her. Like, you might have well just hit her across the face as well. Like, that was just so inappropriate, and like, I just don't understand why someone would think that's okay.
No. And what we're trying to say, hopefully we're not, I don't really, you know, you guys know me by now. I just think that we can do better as a community of dancers, you know, professionals even. Like, this is not a sorority. You know what I'm saying? This is not like we just get to like treat people who we want to bring into our organization, or like, you know what I mean, and like exclude people who we don't think belongs. This is like
Mean Girls. We did a Mean Girl episode.
We already did it.
That's exactly what's happening.
And it's not cool especially for the women who had the balls to stand up for what was not right, and actually, just from a legal perspective, not even like, oh, I don't think this is cute or fair. Like, no, from a legal perspective, you're actually engaged in illegal employment practices, or literally like you're not paying people what they're deserved. Like, it's just on that basis alone, it's fair game. And for these women to kind of be left on the outside is just something that I found extremely unacceptable. And I just want us to kind of like step up to the plate. And, you know, even for people who may have like been involved in like not supporting, it's never too late. You know what I'm saying? You can reach out to people and say, I felt caught up in the moment. I was more worried about, you know, like my spot on the squad or not having opportunities, and therefore, you know, that's what I sacrificed for whatever reason. It's just called integrity. You know what I mean?
Reevaluate your reaction to things. And,
because it's fair.
You know,
like,
no regrets, okay?
But you know, it makes me think of the Mean Girl episode where you actually, like, I was surprised when we were recording, and you like mentioned just that a moment where you thought that you could have done something to stand up for someone that was kind of the target of attacks on your squad. Right. But like, that says a lot about just, I'm at a place where I can accept what role I might have played or what I could have done differently. You know what I'm saying? And that's maturity. That's growing through it. Yeah. But it's growing through something that, like, you know, we don't have all the answers, and we're not going to be perfect. And I don't mean to sound like I'm on some like pedestal, like preachy, you ain't right. But I will call a spade like a spade. And I just felt like at the end of the day, you just want to be on the right side of doing people right, because the stuff that's gone down one way or the other, you know, there's the truth. There's the one side of the story that we got from Kristan. There's the other side of the story that could have come from anybody from the Dolphins organization. And, you know, we're here. If people want to like share their side, so be it. But at the end of the day, there's still just kind of like right and wrong. And I think I'm glad that at least we were a platform to be able to share one side of the story and hopefully encourage people who may have gone through similar situations. I mean, I feel like her situation was hella egregious. It was like to the nines, effing unacceptable.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything.
Need to listen to it.
I can't think of anything more like effing inappropriate, unacceptable, just like hell to the nah than this particular instance. You know, we saw the other headlines, and, you know, getting duct taped and shit was out of control with the Texans. But I just think that, you know, this one really struck a nerve with me, and I just think that we can do better, and I would encourage us all to just, it's like a self-check. Like, do you look at yourself in the mirror and be like, you know what?
I gained weight? Yeah.
Well, speaking of mental and emotional, because that was the one thing that we were going to try to address, because we're not professionals on any level whatsoever, but let's just talk about it, because I'm wearing like a drape.
We're like 40 minutes in, girl.
Are we
still
really?
Here? Wave if you're still here.
Oh shit, we should just wrap it up. But I was gonna say that one of the things that people did ask us to talk about was, and I encourage you guys to go back and listen to the Let's Get Physical episode, because we do talk about it a lot. Like, the lasting impacts of doing something like pro cheerleading really do surround your body. Mm-hmm. So go back and listen to that episode because we're not going to recount it here. But I'm trying to appreciate all my extra curves and wrinkles.
You don't even have any.
They're here.
But I guess it just makes you look at yourself differently, and you have high expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
Or like you were photographed, 6 years ago looking a certain way, and now it's hard to look at photographs of yourself now. It's hard. You know what I mean?
It's an ongoing struggle.
It is. But you know what? Love yourself. Love each other.
Yes.
Love on us. Like, send us... Send us some
Love
stuff. Like, send us some questions for our cheerversary. Like, whoa, that's way off topic. But
bring it home because I've been on a mother freaking tangent.
It's okay. It's okay.
This is all about a relationship with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you tell yourself, the conversations you have with yourself when you actually are going through the fire. Like, it made me think about, like, when I was experiencing a bunch of bullshit on my job at the Gates Foundation. And you know how you have to kind of like, wait, am I crazy? Or is this just, somebody else tripping on me? And then really figuring out when it's time to like stick it in and fight and when it's time to walk away. You know what I'm saying? And those conversations, you guys, that you have with yourself is your way of showing love for yourself and respecting who you are, respecting what you stand for, and being willing to take a stand. And I would just encourage everybody to, whether you're having that conversation one-on-one, or if you kind of like have those conversations with people who you trust, that knew you before you were a pro cheerleader, don't lose sight of those friendships because they do mean a lot, to keep you honest and hold you accountable, to keep you true to yourself. Like, that makes a big fat ass difference, I think, in how you view this whole experience, because you can get blown up into your own world of like what this world will bring you, the light, the fame, the and you can forget like what's really
no more vodka, okay?
But you can forget what's real. And I just want to encourage people, like, we're here. Your people who knew you before you were on a team are here. And at the end of the day, like, just support one another, because this experience, back to your point earlier, is amazing. Like, there's even with my shit that I may have gone through, I loved every minute of.
I know, I would actually, like, Groundhog Day, redo those 6 years for eternity.
Yeah.
Like, I had the most fun being a seagull. Like,
It's
truly.
true.
I got to travel the world. I met you.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
like, yeah.
oh my God.
But no, it's true. Like, it's like there are moments of this experience that are unlike anything you ever experienced. And that's why with people who are auditioning, and it is worth it, you guys. Like, it is worth it. It can be the most amazing experience that you will ever have in your life. But nobody deserves to have that smeared with just the mean girl activity, harassment, not getting paid for the work that you do and the value that you bring to an organization, and ultimately being treated like shit as an employee. You guys are worth so much more. And I just think if we can just keep coming together as a community to support one another and back one another in that, it can be the most fucking fabulous thing you've ever done in your whole life. Like, no scars, no, like, but, like, it could just actually be the greatest thing that you've ever experienced, and as a performer. And I just want that for everybody.
Yeah.
I really do. And this is so not related, and I should shut the F up. But I went to the freaking, hold on. I went to the concert for Todrick Hall over the weekend, and I just have to say, it was last night. Let me quit acting like it was 2 days ago. It was effing amazing. Todrick Hall, you guys, in case you don't know, everybody's like dancing. Do I have your attention?
Yes.
It was so good. It was so good, and I just want to give him a shout out. Well, not like he's listening, but the point is, like, he gave such a beautiful tribute to his dancers. He said, like, it is really hard in LA right now for dancers to find work. And he straight up took a timeout in the middle of his show, several timeouts to thank his fans, but a timeout in his show just for professional dancers. He literally put their Instagram handle up on the freaking screen and just gave them a chance to get their shine and just express how they stood out to him in the auditions process. And I just want to say, like, that was really encouraging. Like, we talked to Michelle Vaughn, we talked to Simone Miller. Like, I just think we understand that, like, people, when they stop cheering, they move on to trying to get other opportunities in professional dance, and it's not easy. And so I thought that was so amazing that he took time to let them have their shine and promote themselves, and understanding that it's still a business. And But the point is, like, you want to show these people love, and he was very, very appreciative of his dancers, and I just thought that was great. And for people who are grinding out there and trying to make a name for themselves, we get that this industry is hard. And
you're an artist.
You're an artist, and you might have danced professionally as a cheerleader or dancer on a dance team, but we get that it's hard. And it was just awesome to hear an artist, like, acknowledge that. He was so damn good. Damn it! It was so good. It was so fucking good. Okay.
Hey, exclusive stuff that's not going to make it in the episode tomorrow, but thank you to everybody that joined us live or on YouTube.
50% of this will be, like, edited out for the episode.
Right,
because
like a lot of the drinking.
No. You guys, sometimes you just need a drink, okay? Like, just woosah. You guys are at practice anyway, so we're having a drink for you, okay? Anyway, wrapping it up, 45 minutes later.
Yep.
We've never gone this long for church chat.
Girl.
I do. We love you. We can't wait to celebrate with you in less than 7 days for our cheerversary. Please join us. We have a countdown. We'll probably post it again in our story so you can get a little reminder. And we hope that you tune in.
Have a cocktail with us.
Cheersy, weersy.
We'll be drinking.
We are. We're going to get
Wear your black and pink, send us, tag us.
Let us know how you feel about
just join
the fact that we survived a year. You guys, this is not easy, okay? I'm just kidding. It's not complaining.
Well, because Mhkeeba does all the work, because I totally fell off, like, I just show up.
I love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Love you. But this is seriously an amazing episode. I think everybody, your mom, your grandma, your sister, send it to someone. It relates to so many things outside of cheerleading, and maybe it'll give them a view into what it's really like and what we go through.
And how to get through it. Like, if you're going through it and you're not necessarily having this time of your life, like the honeymoon period wore off and you're realizing, oh, this is how this shit really is. This is for you, you guys. Like, stick in there, hang in there. We're here for you. Kristan has offered herself as, like, someone that you can reach out to if you want to talk. We're a community. I am her. We are you. She is I.
Apple pie.
We love you. Have a wonderful week. We can't wait to celebrate with you on Saturday. So
until next time,
keep your eyes on the sidelines. Great, thanks.
Bye.
We love ya. Have a good week, you guys.
Hey!
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for making time. So let's just get a few things. Like, is it Kristan Ann?
Yes, you can call me that.
Okay. I wasn't sure if Kristan by itself that's not right?
That's okay. You can call me Kristan. Yeah.
Okay. We just want to make sure we got it right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, though. Seriously, not to get all, like, cheesy, but we've been following you since we started the podcast in terms of just what inspired the podcast and everything. So, like, to be able to talk to you almost a year later after we launched is
my gosh. You guys could have contacted me a year ago. I would have been open.
We were so, like, podcasters. I mean, we still are, but I mean, Brittany, you could probably say it too. I just like, there's no way they would talk to us, like we.
What?
Yeah.
No, I am not like that. Like, I talk to anybody anytime. It doesn't matter how big or small. I think it's amazing what you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe should have been a little bit braver, but I was like, well, also too, you guys were definitely doing, like, the media circuit.
Yeah.
Not Good Morning America, so.
Oh gosh, no, I don't have a mindset like that. So.
Well, Mhkeeba is an attorney, so she definitely understands, when things are going on, like restrictions in terms of talking. But yeah, we basically started the podcast on what happened with you. That was Mhkeeba found the article and told me about what was happening, and we were really passionate about it.
That means so much. Just the fact, to me, it's like, it was about 9 months before my story even got told. So I was in silence for, almost a year and a half of just, like, in constant prayer. Like, if there ever does come a time, for me to tell my story, it just has to be, like, out of forgiveness and love. And, like, God had to deal with me the way only he could. So I didn't know that I was ever going to get the opportunity to share what happened. And the Dolphins did gag order me. They gag ordered me while the case was going on. And so I'm pretty sure Bailey continued with her case, but I dropped mine because to me, it was more important for me to share my testimony and share, like, it's not just about cheerleading, it's about my faith and me being saved and getting baptized. And so for me, it was more than a case. You have faith that you can find God in a courtroom, and I totally think he is everywhere, but I had to make a decision that this was not my battle to fight in the courtroom. And that this was going to be, this was going to be like a prayer battle. And this was going to be just between, me and God. And as soon as it turned into a case fighting for myself, that's also when another reason why I dropped it, because, God told me to share my truth and to be brave and to be courageous and just speak and tell my story and be honest and love and forgiveness. And then I did that. And so when it came time for like another case or like another meeting with the Dolphins or, all everything that comes with a lawsuit, I was like, wait, I was like, what am I fighting for? And I have to trust that God is still fighting for me without a lawsuit. And so when I tell you, it is women like you who are talking about this and keeping the conversation going, that is keeping me strong in my prayer and my faith to know that God's not finished yet, even though the case is over. And it means a lot. I could talk to you like anytime, every day. I hope you're never shy again after this. I hope you just call everyone you want to talk to. But I'm very, very thankful that you're keeping the conversation going, and it is a part of my testimony. So I thank you a whole lot.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even cry. Thank you. We talked about it, I think it was probably like our second episode, but just between you and Bailey Davis in terms of how isolating the whole situation probably felt. Like, not just like once the lawsuits are filed or you're in the media, but just even like being a part of the team, trying to find that voice to speak up of this not being right. People probably having your back privately, like, yeah, that's really screwed up, but really feeling alone in taking it as far as you guys both, took your individual cases, if you will.
Right.
I sensed it even just with like articles that were coming out. That's, there's that sisterhood or vibe of like, we don't talk about our dirty laundry. And I just felt like you guys were lacking somebody that was part of the pro cheerleading community and that would support what you guys were doing. And the fact that you were speaking out in and of itself, because I think, and I don't think I would have felt any differently if I was still part of a team. I mean, we were both retired and off, right?
Right.
But I just thought, gosh, I don't know that everybody's just like running to be a support system for you guys. I don't know if you felt that.
No, you're so right. I mean, I find the feeling of being lonely, like that alone feeling, it stems from two different things. And one is when you're in a crowded room and you have eyes on you, but you feel alone because, you have no support. And then the other feeling of being alone stems from you're not sharing anything that can help someone else, like you're withholding your truth. And you can feel alone with that while you're walking through this life.
Right.
You mentioned it. You hit it right. What is it? The nail on the head or the head on the nail? You got it right when you said that it was all private support. It was, let me send Kristan a text and like, oh, wow, how brave of you. But then on Instagram would never like a poem, would never like the picture, would never publicly support. And I say this over and over again, and it's so important, but as long as women are hating other women, the enemy is always going to win, and we're not going to win this fight. And I remember being a rookie, being terrified out of my mind and trying to be perfect and do everything that I could to stay on that team. I remember a lawsuit coming out on another team. I forget what team it was, but a lawsuit came out, and the first thing our director said was, everyone go on Facebook, go on all your social media accounts and say something positive about our team. And so from the get-go, as an NFL cheerleader, I was robotically trained to not support other women. And it's so ironic because I never knew that I was going to be a girl just like her, trying to make a difference and having every other team against me, even my own. And so, like, those are the lessons that you hear in life. Naive gets misused a lot. I don't think it's naiveness. I think it's just you hope for the best and you see the good in people. And so it is a lack of knowledge, but it's also like you would think that an organization like the NFL, you could feel safe, that you could trust what they're training you, because they're the biggest, most important organization in the world. And what you find is that because they're the most important organization in the world, that you should be scared, and that what's happening against you is not always public, but it's behind the uniform. It's what's happening in the locker room. It's not about a fan touching you. It's more than that. It's how you were trained to say, oh, whoops, sorry, your hand slipped. You know, we're teaching these women that it's okay to be silent, and it's okay to be agreeable, and it's okay to be nice. But the difference between kind is nice is that a nice girl will let it happen, but a kind girl will stand up for bullying and still be kind while she speaks up, but she knows the value of her voice. And as an NFL cheerleader, all of those rights, it's like all those American rights, the ones that we're standing, you know, in America for, all the rights that we fought for, they're taken away from you as soon as you put your name on that dotted line. Yeah. And you don't know that as an NFL cheerleader. You think you're safe, and you get brainwashed and gaslight and all those things that happen. And the whole experience isn't bad. I mean, I saw God in all the pieces and all the parts, even the broken parts. But that third year was the hardest year that I've ever been through in my life. And I would do it again. And that's because my faith grew so much stronger. And I wouldn't have a voice right now if I never went through the silence period, you know? So
well, you're so well spoken, and we love your social media. Amazing and inspirational.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you.
That's why I got the courage to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna comment and just say, because it was so spot on with what we were talking about doing a mental / emotional. I don't even know what to call it. It's just like how to cope with this life that can sometimes break you down and where you can't get back up, kind of a thing, and having lasting effects on people even after they stop dancing. But your post was just like, that's it. I'm just going to type a little something. And
I can't believe you're shy to reach out to me. Like, I'm like the biggest goofball. I'm like, I was actually feeling offended. Like, I was in my spirit. I was like, why haven't they reached out to me? Like, I was like, what's up with this? Like, what the heck? Did they find a better person?
Got an episode with my name on it. Like, what is, no. I just thought maybe it was like my legal background, but I was like, you know, it's ongoing litigation, you know, not only just the whole media. I noticed that Sarah Blackwell was with you most of the time. So I was like, it's probably a little difficult to do, you know, a podcast interview in light of everything going on. So I was just trying to like be respectful of the process.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. I've been working on a book for a while. I don't know why. I mean, I think I know why. Like, it's taking so long. There's some chapters that I'm healing from, and you know, I feel like as women, like, you're constantly on this journey of trying to stop comparing yourself to others. And it's hard not to race against time and age, especially after, you know, being in the entertainment business. It sticks on you for a while. But the book that I'm writing, the hopeful title is Behind the Uniform. And it's going to be like Grace Before Justice, like just that kind of vibe to it, because I want to spread love and forgiveness, but I'm not fighting, you know, against the NFL. I'm fighting for the girls in the NFL. And I think that's a really strong difference to make known. But hopefully within like the next year or so, the book will be out there. And that's really like my God dream, is I want to speak on this and I want to send out positive messages and change the culture, but I can't do it alone. And I think that's the block, is like, I mean, I'm not getting support from the current cheerleaders, and heaven forbid they like a photo. You know, it's like all of them have unfollowed me. I've been blocked by most NFL cheerleaders. And what's even weird is even other girls who are in a lawsuit, you know, and it's so intriguing to me. It's this, I don't know, I guess it depends on what their motives are, but like, I went out there because I have like a lot of little sisters, and just thinking they're all cheerleaders, and like thinking of them ever being an NFL cheerleader the way it was when I left broke my heart. And I was like, I have to change this for the better. Like, I can't leave it how I found it. And I just wish that we could support each other, because I just have this like vision of, instead of cheerleaders taking the field to perform for pregame, that they all just locked arms, and in the middle of the game they continued to charge the field and just walked with their boots and stood in the middle of the field. And that's what it's going to take to rise against the NFL. It's not just going to take one social media post here or one news break there or one headline. It's going to take a group of women, and golly, like, I wish I had that power. I just have to keep on this journey and continue to do what God is asking of me and try to listen the best that I can, but I just can't do it alone. Yeah. So
when I think about what you were saying in terms of like the goal of trying to make it better than what you left, and I think maybe different women had different motives in their lawsuits. You know, everybody's different, right?
Right.
When I think of the community that we've been getting to know as we started the podcast, and you know, all the drama that would happen in May with NBA teams cutting their dancers, and it's the same similar disrespectful treatment. And it's just weird to me because I think we've been getting feedback of like, oh, thank goodness, you know, you guys are doing this because it's great that we have a voice and a platform. But I forget what episode it was where I was kind of like, damn, where was all of this when the stuff was going down in the beginning? Because, you know, like, I just think you guys were just left out on Front Street really because of people, you know, and to hear you saying it, like people unfollowed you, people blocked you, you guys really didn't have the support. And I think what we've seen with other teams as they've tried to react and reform based on a lot of these headlines, I'm like, okay, you know, you can do some rebranding real quick. You know what I mean? You can change up the narrative, especially if you got some muscle behind it to really say, no, this is who we are now, and this is how great we are, and sisterhood. And it is absolutely worth it to try to like make it better. But it's just almost thinking of like the people who are benefiting from it, and if it's really clicking full circle that like
they don't want it to change because it takes away their spot on the team.
Right.
I don't know why that's bugging me just in hearing about it, but I think even the things that we tried to do with the podcast of like helping to elevate a lot of this and getting people talking. I think we were Brittany, it was probably when we were trying to get people to rally hella hard with the NBA team. Wrote this freaking open letter that I thought was so great. And it's not that it was about like, get this everywhere, but it was just really figure out how to rally people behind, not us, but it was about the women. And, you know, I just think there aren't a lot of courageous people out there like yourself that are willing to be that voice when there aren't any others around you. And I just want to say, like, we tried to do our part to cover it, and, you know, and it's just kind of mind blowing that even now for teams that are trying to distance themselves from the nasty, ugly summer or, you know, whatever, it's still not, the conversation's still not over, not in our book.
Yeah.
You know?
And I love that. I really love that. Yeah. I did lose a lot of people along the way. I remember the point that my case got to was I needed witnesses to go on the stand. And I had 3 that saw everything, saw the director put her hands on me, like, you know, all those major things. And I went to them and they told me like straight up, I saw everything. This is what happened. I'm so proud of you. And then it came time for my witnesses that needed to take the stand. And they said that they weren't going to do it, that they didn't want to burn a bridge with the Dolphins. And I said, so you would rather walk on a bridge full of lies and intimidation than stand up for what actually happened and what is true? And their answer was yes. And the one person that I had that was willing to take the stand, she had a panic attack and got rushed to the emergency room. So all of, my witnesses just didn't make it. And that's like when I started to question, like, well, God, you sent me here. What's happening? Like, what is this case turning into? And it was just, I think he has other plans and that the courtroom wasn't going to handle it. But it was sad, you know, like you said, just the support that wasn't there. And also the terrifying parts, like me getting emails about men from other countries threatening to find me and sell me into the sex trade. Yeah. And so my parents, they had to put up cameras all along the house, and like we had like a cop circling for a little while. It got really intense, just with the scary parts about people finding out that I was waiting for marriage, and then, you know, how some people out there can take that in such like a wrong way. And then of course the first people to comment nasty negative things were women, and it was, oh, you asked for it, or you're the whore that wanted to be a cheerleader in the first place. And, you know, it's just so sad. It's so sad.
Well, that was something.
Yeah.
When we first came across the story, I just remember that line that just did not sit well. It was like what you were told about taking something that was once pure and beautiful and turning it into something pretty. And I was kind of like, it took me a minute to process, like, how the hell did they even, what was the connection here? Like, how could they even turn that into that? And then it was just, you know, like you said, like it's someone with the sexualization of virgins, and that was not at all where you were coming from. It's just mind-boggling. I mean, we talked about it, I think, because sometimes in the Seagals auditions, you know, when people are answering a question about what inspires them, or, you know, it's all some like pageant-like question, and I don't know how they answered it, but the fact that they were virgin came up. But I just imagine it being something where it's like, oh, you said that so you can get, like, it's just so backwards, because it's really perverted to twist faith and choice to wait as some means of attracting men.
Like an invitation. Yeah.
It's like, what are we talking about? It's so...
Yeah.
You know, you were on the team for 3 years. Was it an accumulation, or was it bad every year, or just mostly the last year?
No, that's another thing that I've seen as a misunderstanding with my story is they're like, oh, if it was so bad, why didn't you leave? And I was like, I did. I left when it got bad. My first 2 years, obviously the red flags were there. There was still intimidation. You're in the process of being gaslighted, all that, you know, the harsh cruelty towards how you look, things like that normal come with cheerleading. But me respecting my authority never turned into disrespecting God until my third year. And that's when I knew I had to walk away, because now it's not about what I look like, what I signed up for. Now you're attacking me for everything that's not in the contract. You never said I couldn't be a Christian. You never said I couldn't wait for marriage. You never said I couldn't wear a True Love weight string. You never said I couldn't smile and look happy. You know, now it's, you need to change your smile. You don't look sexy enough. You need to make love to the camera. Hold these basket of fruits like you're caressing a man's balls. Like, it turned into, So now once they found out that I was waiting for marriage, now it was just like this mockery game of like, oh, how can we tease you? Yeah. And so it got bad my third year, but the only people that knew that I was waiting for marriage was just from some of the girls on the team from that bus and that trip in London. And so that's, they're asking about the sex playlist and all that. So yeah, that's how it found out. And then, like, I guess just, you know, some of the girls were continue to talk about it, but that's how my coaches found out.
Well,
so
pause though, because I think even for, you know, our listeners, just because I think a lot of people get it twisted, you were just never, and even if you did shout it from the dang on mountaintops, you could have.
You have every right to.
Yeah, every right to. Yeah. But I think that a lot of people probably don't know how it came out that you were saving yourself until marriage. So we were aware of the bus story, but you were on.
I wasn't. Actually.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can just share it, because I think you were. You know, it wasn't something like what a lot of people could take away from the story of like, oh, she must have been posting on social media and blasting it and making it feel like she was inviting all this attention to that fact.
Right. Okay. So we were, I forget what game, I'm pretty sure it was the Jets, but we were playing a game in London, and there was only a few girls and I that were on this bus to head to an appearance. And, you know, like girl talk, like you normally would, they were just talking about their sex playlist and what songs were on it. And like I said, I'm a talker, so I'm talking a whole lot most of the time. And one of the camera guys, who was a really close friend of mine, he was like, this is the first time I haven't heard Kristan talk. And I just kind of giggled it off, but I wasn't talking because I didn't know much. I didn't know a lot about the situation to have something to say. Yeah. Right. So I was just minding my own business and taking note. Oh, that would be a good song, you know, like just being funny with it. And so then they're like, oh yeah, Kristan, go ahead. Like, tell us what is on your playlist. And I was like, oh no, like I don't have one. And they're like, oh, come on, like just tell us. And I was like, okay, well, if I did have one, it would be maybe some Chase Rice, you know, Sam Hunt, like the slow country songs, you know. And they're like, wait, what do you mean? Like, if you were to have one? And like, I took a deep breath and I was like, okay. So usually what happens at this point is you answer the question honestly, and then girls get mad at you because they automatically think that you're like a goody-goody and that you think you're better than everyone else, or that your life is perfect. Or I lie and I can put on another mask and, you know, not tell the truth, but then like feel bad when I lay my head down at night. So I took the risk of what, you know, my teammates were going to think of me. And I said, well, you know, for me, like my personal life is I'm just choosing to wait for the right guy, and that right guy is going to be the one that I marry. And that's just like what I believe in. And they're like, what? No way. So it was more like a shocking thing, like, whoa, you're waiting for marriage. I didn't feel any tension or anything, like, you know, like that first thought that I had, like, oh no, what if they're going to hate me? But then it kind of started turning into that, that trip. Like, I remember shaking hands with a guy that was in uniform because we were visiting the military while we were there, which was my favorite part of the job. Like, that's where my heart lived. That was my joy. Like, constantly just spreading love to our military, because I was raised in the military. So being able to give back to them meant everything. And I remember talking to this gentleman in uniform, and these group of girls were like around me, and they're like, oh, better go to the next, like, you know, just starting to kind of put me down in public. And so that's when I started feeling, okay, here we go. Like, this is what I'm used to. But I didn't know that it would turn into rumors that would get back to my coaches. One of the rumors was that I was trying to sell my virginity to fans just to get attention. I was one of the fan favorites, and so girls were using that, telling my coaches that I was like, hi, I'm Kristan and I'm a virgin, like spreading it around. Like, that, first of all, that's so uncomfortable. And I never even said, like, I don't even use the words I'm a virgin, because there's so many different like connotations that go with that. I always say that I'm waiting for marriage, or I talk about my faith, or I talk about my true love weight string. And that's how I knew. And that's why it was so shocking to me, because I was like, wait, virginity, like, I don't even use that word, you know? And so when my coaches brought it up in that way, and that I was telling everybody about it, I was like, there's no way. Yeah, like, that's not true. And now I'm being attacked for an accusation. One, there's no conversation, so you're just accusing me. And then, like, they said how I turned it dirty, and how the girls thought that I shouldn't be in the same uniform as them, and that I needed to develop into a real woman. I was like, well, you know, a woman of the world or a woman of God? And okay, so you're going to bring the one into an interview room and ask her about her virginity, but are you bringing other girls in and asking them about their partners? You know, like, what's the difference? Like,
right?
Yeah, like, you don't need to know this. And the way that they could have, exactly,
you know,
the way that they could have handled it was the whole team in the stadium, and you're saying whatever your sexual preference is, don't talk about it, not even in girl talk. That would have been a way that would have removed them from discrimination if they made it a whole big picture. But they brought in the one, and that's where the discrimination claim came from, of course.
Yeah. And of course, you made a wonderful point about just the fact that, you know, being employees of that team, and that the same restrictions and gag orders, so to speak, on, you know, discussing your faith doesn't apply to any of the NFL players that are very open about their faith, and during the game and after the game, and having a chaplain, and, you know, they have all sorts of resources to support the guys in their faith. And so I don't know if you've listened to how feisty I get, but I'm just so
I love it.
Oh, like, just listening at like what you experience, it just really, really pisses me off, because I think, you know, I mean, we get real down and dirty with it, but like truth behind the palm style, like the reality of really what this is about is not even so much about the fact that you chose to save yourself from marriage. It sounds to me like women on the team envied you. I mean, if you were selected as a fan favorite, and then somehow that's taken and twisted into this context of, well, you're doing things and sharing things with fans so that you can become the fan favorite. I mean, like, again, it's very personal and very deep. And so I just think that at the end of the day, that's really what was triggered. Because, I mean, nobody needs to be taking that much interest in your sex life.
Right.
I mean, period. But,
But
it may have been at play in terms of turning it into this, like, big thing. You know, sharing, everybody bonds when you go traveling. You have girl talk.
Of course, in hotels,
Yeah, and then to turn it into what it became, and for you to be bullied as a result. I mean, it's just classic case of just how women can be with women. And that's what I guess I'm just getting so just burned up about, because I think, when people see or have the dream of becoming an NFL cheerleader, and a lot of what attracts them to it, and a lot of what women will testify as to why they love the experience so much, is the sisterhood. You see everybody's social media taking all these cute pictures with everybody and being so close to their sisters and bonds, and you think, oh my God, I want that, and all teams must be like that, or whatever you're thinking. And these are the real things that happen on teams that can really be a different experience. It sounds like your squad mates, in addition to your coaches, behaving this way, which is just...
Right. Yeah, I didn't have that sisterhood. I'm blessed that, I made a few good friends, but that sisterhood, that was just a script, that was given to us. It was rehearsed. It wasn't real. And, that was my experience. Right. I am sure that there are teams and women out there who have had that sisterhood experience, but my experience wasn't that. The pictures that I posted, I would have loved to have it be true. I remember crying a lot of the times. I was the one taking the pictures of the girls in the group. And I remember crying, thinking why do I feel so left out? And am I doing this to myself, or is this some sort of story that I just don't know the end yet? But yeah, I didn't have that experience as a sisterhood. It was just a rehearsed script that we were given.
Totally relate to the oh, so-and-so, take this picture of us.
You're not going to be in it, but take it.
Yeah, take it. Yeah.
We know that.
Thank you. There are those people on these teams. We were surprised and didn't realize was that you were actually physically assaulted by your coach. I mean, the levels of violation here are so beyond. And I would say even describing that, but it's just going to piss me off even more. But I mean, you went through a lot of crap. And it even got down to them putting their hands on you in any kind of way whatsoever.
Well, I think to me, the saddest part looking back was not that she crossed a boundary and put her hands on me. The saddest part to me is that I didn't know that a boundary was being crossed. That's what breaks my heart, is that I didn't know she was violating me. I didn't know that I didn't have to take that mistreatment. I thought that I had to tolerate anything that came my way because I was proving something. I had something to prove. And so when she put her hands on my shoulders and put me down the stairs and shook me back and forth and called me a child and told me that she was going to hire me a babysitter because I needed to grow up into a woman, all those things that she said, I stared at her like she was nose to nose with me, just yelling in front of all of my teammates. And I still didn't know that a violation and a boundary was being crossed. And I think that's the message that needs to be spread, is what is okay and what is not okay. And women need to have their boundaries more clear. And we need to know what boundaries are, and we need to start them while they're young, because in a world full of hands going towards things and words being said without women having a clear baseline of boundaries, history is going to repeat itself. Sexual molestation is going to continue. Telling a little girl when, oh, be a good girl, just be quiet, when you're on the phone and your little girl's in the back seat. Okay, you're already raising and programming her brain that she's only a good girl if she's quiet. It's these, just stay quiet and tolerate and be nice, be agreeable. So that's a message that I desperately want to spread in my book, and the message that I want to spread all over the world is what are boundaries and how do you make them clear, and how can we raise women who are going to start saying no and using their voice more to create a better world and to support other women. How can we be comfortable in our own skin to know that one's beauty isn't going to take away from your own? How can we truly believe that and be a friend, and not just be a good friend, but be a true friend? Go up on the stand to face the truth, for another friend. How can we raise more women like that?
I think in that article I read that I sent to you, Mhkeeba, but I think it was you that I'm quoting, that you said, don't create drama, create change. And I think that was really powerful too.
I think it was the statement around what your end goal was in pursuing the lawsuit and everything was not to create this dramatic attention getting news.
Right. Like 5 minutes of fame. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that we heard that a lot too, with the other the Bailey Davis case and then the Houston Texans case and just different things. And people were thinking of it as, or maybe we were reading articles that was a lot of the backlashes they were getting, was that they were looking for their 5 minutes of fame. And that's just not, we totally appreciate, the fact that you are writing a story to make it very clear what your message is and hope is. Can I get back to something that you were saying?
Of course.
That is part of being that you didn't realize that boundaries were being crossed. It's one thing when you come into these situations kind of already equipped with a sense of like how to fight these battles or whatever, and you know your self-worth. And, I'm just imagining if you come into these scenarios of being on a team and you lack that, or it's being tested in a way where you aren't really secure in that just yet. Like, did you feel like you didn't know the boundary because of just where you were?
It was a sense of the constant reminder that you're only special in the uniform and that this is your only chance in the world that you could make a difference, and that this is the only time you could ever be a role model for little girls, and that anyone in the world could replace you, and that there's a million other girls that would take your job. And so on one hand, it was, you better do everything that they say. You can only say yes, ma'am. You can't have any type of opinion or argument against what they say. So that's on one hand. Another hand is you're terrified. This part of your brain, your lid flips and you're in constant fear and anxiety. And so that's another thing. You're not thinking clearly. And the NFL likes young girls. And the reason why they want them 18, 19, 20, like that young group, is because they're easier to manipulate. Like, let's be real. Like, they haven't had, I'm not saying every woman is like this, but, younger girls have had loose experiences, and you gain experiences like through the years that you're alive. And although I'd been through like heartbreaking and traumas and tragedies, boundaries were still one thing that wasn't talked about, growing up. And so now I get on this team, and again, I think that I can trust the NFL and I could feel safe there. And so her putting her hands on me, to me, I'm still like almost sticking up for them, thinking like, oh, well, they can't be doing anything wrong because this is the NFL. Like, everyone would know what they do. So what she's doing clearly isn't wrong, or else she wouldn't do it. But there was a sense in my soul, like there was this soul message that was saying, hey, that's not right. And it was just like in my interview, there was something in me that was saying this isn't right. But I didn't grow in my voice to follow through with it until once I left the team. And it's kind of like you can't fight the system while you're in the system. And so you can't know what you're living in until you step out of the box. It was all those things that you hear about victims in abusive relationships, that they didn't, 9 times out of 10, they're going to continue to go back to that relationship because they end up sticking up for the abuser. They end up protecting the abuser. And it's just this cycle that happens. But to try to answer your question, there's a lot of reasons why I think women tolerate it. It could be status. They're young. They want the status. They want the fame. They want to be in that uniform because it makes them something. And if I'm being completely honest with myself, when I became, an NFL cheerleader, I thought that I quote unquote made it. Like I thought the only way God could use me was if I was famous and I had a platform. And then them validating that, like the lies that I'm telling myself, they validated it through telling me that I was only special in the uniform, that this was the only time that I could be a role model. This was the only time I could make a difference. And so it's like they almost were able to feed the lies that society is telling these young women. And so then they begin to believe it more and more and more. And so me giving up my uniform, I felt like I was literally giving up the only chance God could use me. And I was a Christian on an NFL team, and I was told that I was never allowed to say Jesus Christ again, that I could never say God again. I couldn't even say it on my social media. And I envied the other teams, like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. They have a lot of Christians on their team that talk about God on their social media platforms. And I was envious of that. And I was like, why are they safer than me? Why are they more protected than me? What am I doing wrong? And then I saw football players who were saying glory to God. and they were expressing their Christianity on social media outlets too. And here I was, a woman in a uniform as an NFL cheerleader, being told that I have to stay silent. And I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And so when I walked away from the team, I felt like I was nothing. And that was because I was proving and seeking approval and validation from women who honestly did not have my best interest in their heart. Mm-hmm. And that I was just another girl in a uniform, and that I was going to be easily replaced with a younger version of me in a year or two. You know, like the average lifespan of a cheerleader is 2 to 3 years. And if you're lucky, you get 5. Otherwise, they get sick of your look and they want somebody who glows more and who is younger and has more energy than you and who looks better in a bikini. And that is the entertainment business. We're fighting against time. We're fighting against age. And that can mess up a woman's psyche. And it did. I fully accepted the charges that came with signing my name on that line. And I am to blame for that. I was a part of that. This isn't look what they did to me. Like, I was in there. I was saying yes, ma'am, when her hands were on me. I was saying this stuff. I was agreeing, you know, on the outside, but there was something in my soul that was saying this isn't right. And it wasn't until the same girls that were, you know, like bullying me a little bit came to me when I was on a public restroom floor, face to the floor, crying my eyes out. They said, I think you should quit. Wow. They shouldn't be treating you like that. And so it wasn't until other girls on my team came to me and said, look what's happening. I was finally convinced, like, oh, my mom is right. Oh, my mentor is right. Oh, all these people in my life are right. And I was sticking up for the wrong person. And so I did grow a lot in trusting my intuition and being courageous to say the word no, or being courageous to be honest with my truth and sticking up for my mistakes too. Like, I wasn't a perfect cheerleader during that time. And that was the hardest role, like you guys have read, that I ever had to play, was portraying this perfect cheerleader while my heart was breaking and constantly having that smile on that was full of red lipstick and my hair being perfectly curled and my mascara being put on 2 times, 3 times, 4 times over again because I just kept crying through it. And there's no waterproof mascara that is going to hide a breaking heart. You know, it's just not. And it was a mind and heart spiritual battle that I was facing. Wow. See, I talked a lot again. And you asked me one simple question.
No, the question was not simple at all. All over the place. But just thinking about like the mental, emotional aspects of how this situation impacts a person's, you know, soul, you know, and I think talking about having this episode, and, you know, a lot of the things we've talked about as separate episodes, but I just think listening to you, it's really like a true, like, this is how it shows up. This is what you're dealing with. And, you know, maybe this is just like a really egregious case, but I think there is a little bit of what you've experienced in every locker room for maybe people that are on a team. And I just think at any point when it's just so relentless and you're constantly the target of all of this, you do feel like sticking it out is the way to go sometimes, of like, oh, if I just power through, or I'm not going to let them take my dream away from me and quit. And there's so much that you battle within yourself as to maybe thinking you deserve it, or maybe I didn't, I've screwed up some of these dances, I don't know, or maybe I'm a crappy rookie, and you really realize how toxic an environment really truly is, or the impact that it's having on you. I mean, we didn't have the answers for a mental and emotional health episode, like we're not therapists, but I just think people hearing about what you experience and understanding that this has very real ramifications. I mean, I'm just thinking even, and see, I talk a lot too, so shit, Brittany, tell me.
It's good. It's good.
No, this is good. I love listening, so.
But it's just like, when I think about, I think I'm just thinking of the power of what we can be as women when we actually support one another in a real, true, authentic way. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't care if we only had like 5 listeners to this podcast if they were people who were just like all in and believing in it. We can be so much better to each other, right? And so, you know, I know that there are probably people who listen to the podcast who would be the very same person maybe being a bully on a team, or just, thinking that it's cute or funny to act this way and to target somebody. And we got to do better than that. Like, we really, like, nobody should ever experience what you did. I mean, to think of not having the support with your teammates, or even down to the wire of like, oh, okay, these two people will have my back, and put themselves on the line, and then they pull out. Like, I'm just kind of like, I just wish that we did better than that, and we really have to look at ourselves as an industry, look at ourselves as, in each of these individual teams. And like you said, really taking from example of Dallas cheerleaders can not even get away with it. It's nothing to get away with, but if other teams can celebrate their women and allow them to have a voice and express themselves in different ways, like, why can't we? And it's a scary thing. And I know sometimes getting people to believe that there is power in using your voice. I went on a little tangent, but I just, I don't even know how you even leave a team and kind of continue to watch. Maybe you block anything from your former team so that you're not actually seeing it anyway either. But what would you say to your former teammates? Like, if you could.
To my former teammates?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say that I stayed as long as I did on the team to try to fight for them, and that I was willing to take all the pain that I did, and I would do it again if it meant that they were okay. And that I think that they misunderstood me. Everything that I did was just to try to make it a better place for them. And that I was never once against them. The days that I wasn't smiling, it was just because I was trying to stay alive the night before. And that all the pain that I was feeling before I went to practice towards the end of that third year, like mid-year all the way to the end, I was in an emergency room. They were scanning my brain for brain tumors. They were trying to just pin me with something to explain what was going on. But after finding a therapist, what was happening was all the emotional stress that I was under, it was turning into these physical manifestations. And I started losing my hearing. I started losing my eyesight. I could barely breathe. I could barely get through a 30-second dance routine without blacking out and just seeing stars everywhere. And I stayed in it against a doctor's note. I had so many doctors tell me that I should quit, that I needed to come back home, that I needed to get help before I killed myself. And I stayed in it because it's not about me, it's about them. And that's just what I believe is that, I remember praying when I was a little girl, like, God, I could take it, just give me the pain and so then they can be okay. And it's not a victim role. It's more of a role like, I know that Jesus lives in me and I know that I can get through the darkest nights. And so if somebody needs me to take it, I just want to make it better for them. And that's where my heart was all along. And that the girls that have blocked me and the girls that are too afraid to talk to me in public, I would just tell them that I still love you. And I wanted that sisterhood, and it broke my heart that you blocked me, but like, I'm full of forgiveness and I just want to make it a better place. And I never meant to hurt them by telling my truth, but I had to be honest with myself and I had to be obedient to God. And if they still choose to have me blocked and to, not want to be my friend, then I have to be okay with that because, God is the most important to me. And I feel like the culture of NFL cheerleading needs to change. And I was once a rookie and I once was blind. And, my eyes are opened now. And I know that what I'm doing is hard and it's terrifying and my kneecaps shake and my palms get sweaty and my voice starts to shake. But I know that what I'm doing is ultimately for a little girl out there whose dream is to be an NFL cheerleader. And no one should have to go through what any of us have publicly gone through or have silently gone through. And I'll fight to the end, even if it means I don't make any more friends. just because I know that this is the right thing to do, even though it's the hardest.
Well, we're your friends. Always.
Thanks.
No, like this, I don't know, it might be my time of the month coming soon or something, but
No.
because I think Brittany and I, we've been very, and I don't want to lump you in, Britt, but like we've been tried to be very transparent about what our experience was like being NFL cheerleaders. And it was never about like shaming our team or putting Seagulls in a bad light, but there were just certain aspects of it that were not easy or hard for us. And I just I don't know, I'm full of emotion, I guess, just because I can imagine, if something like if I experienced what you experienced while on Seagulls, rookie year and a couple years later, it really wouldn't matter. Like I could imagine what that feels like, sticking your neck out on the line, and how isolating it would feel to have people think that just because you're trying to fight for what would be right, that it's somehow an affront to them or to become the villain somehow, and not whatever the hell Dory's name is, or what, acting like a fool. Like it's just that reality, that just what it means to really like support one another. And I could just hear people who don't want to listen and hear what you're saying, but I can totally relate to, like you said, it's not about this current team. It's not about your former team. It's about little girls who look up to us and think this is something that I want to do. And it can be an amazing thing to pursue as a dream. We don't want to ever discourage anybody from pursuing the dream of becoming a pro cheerleader, whether it's NFL, NBA, you name it. But it's just, we can be better as an industry, and we can demand better in terms of pay. We can demand better rules, and just kind of like that toxic culture that can kind of permeate and just change everybody's experience for the worse. And so, I don't know. I love you already. I don't know, Kristan.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. Oh my gosh.
I talk a lot of shit, but damn it, I just care a lot, and I can relate to, you sticking through and trying to fight within the ways that you could, hoping that you were actually making it better so somebody else wouldn't have to go through that. And when I see, I don't want to it's not about calling any particular team out, but when I see the team now and, it looks like it's peaches and cream and freaking strawberries,
it does.
I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of I think it was just when we were starting to pay attention to the rebranding, if you will, for some of these teams. And it sounds great. It looks fabulous. And it's empower this and that. But it's also well, shit, was it like that before? Because it sure didn't sound like it. Because
I remember we had this meeting. This was in my third year, closer to the end. And my director was standing up and telling us the new rules of our social media. And it was you could only post about fashion, workouts, swimsuits, and actual dance videos and cheer videos. And I was well, what about portraying this inner beauty as being more important? What about the little girls who follow me on Instagram? This life that we live isn't such a glamorous life. We are real humans. And she told me to save that for my personal life.
And then they copied that idea. They took that idea.
They literally did. The year that all this came out, they literally did their calendar, a whole fashion show off of #UBU. Yeah. And that was exactly what I always used to post about. It was always about vulnerability, transparency. The inner beauty is what matters most. That's where you shine. All the whole movement that I was trying to make, I was laughed at by the team, told to save it for my personal life. And then that's the first thing that they do once I'm off the team and my lawsuit is broke out. And it's it's not about credit. I'm telling you, it's not about credit. But how amazing would it be if there was a partnership between me and the Dolphins and they could admit that they made a mistake, but now we can move, because I'm all about love, grace, forgiveness. I wanted to move forward with hope a long time ago. I forgive Dory. I could hug her. If I see that woman, you better believe that I'm embracing her if she welcomes me in, because we all make mistakes. And I just think it would be a beautiful thing if they called me in, if I could speak to the girls and we could make a positive motion forward of women working together. It doesn't have to be, oh, let's never talk about Kristan again. Let's pretend like she never spoke out to instigate all this beauty and change that's happening on the Dolphins. Let's hide her keep her in the, in the darkness and pretend like this is all of our idea. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy to me. Like, I think it would be a beautiful partnership if they reached out to me, if we could be friends and I could help them with this positive difference that they're making, and then further that to go on to other teams. But no, at this point, they're not going to admit what sparked the change. And in fact, I went to an NFL game, and it was the first time that I'd ever been back to the Dolphins Stadium. And I said hi, and I like wait, that's just who I am. Like, I'm going to say hi and wave to the girls, and they all looked the other way.
Wow.
And nobody smiled, nobody said hi, and you better believe they all know who I am. They all know me. And it's just a sad thing to think like they're being taught what I was taught as a rookie, or maybe they're not. I mean, I'm not behind the uniform anymore, so I don't really know what's going on. But I just remember being in that uniform, you don't support other girls. And, to them, I could be a villain. And it's really sad to think that we just can't work together, because that's what I wanted all along, is a positive change, and they're doing that. It seems like they're doing that. And I wish that I could be a part of it.
It's not real.
Yeah. That's the question. Is like, because I mean, it happened so on the heels of the lawsuit. So we were noticing, I don't remember. I mean, it's always like cheer chat when we're talking about this and that.
Right.
And then we noticed just with their Instagram and the way that they were kind of posting out all these, the black and white pictures, and then
without makeup.
Yeah. So interesting. Like, is it the same team? Is there a change in leadership? Like, what's really going on? But
they're changing their uniforms to be less. I know. And it was sad. And my mentor, she'll be like, well, don't get prideful, but
it's not about that.
It's not, but at the same time, it's like, I wasn't ever fighting to be on a front page. I was fighting for a relationship to better a future for these girls. And so to be kept out of the positive change, which is what I was fighting for, and them using the ideas that I always had, I'm just like, oh man, like, that's what I was here for all along,
But it's fake, though. It's not a real change. Like you said, maybe they have, but that's probably where the frustration comes from, is because they're trying to seem like they've changed and basically took your ideas to make that, illusion, but it's not real,
Yeah.
But I think it's a beautiful message that you even yet and still, have for your former teammates. And that was a question that put you completely on the spot, so I apologize. But
that's okay.
The message that comes from love and, like you said, forgiveness. And at the end of the day, people are going to be who they are. I think we can all be better. Nobody's perfect, and like you said, make mistakes. And if teams are starting to realize that there's a better way of treating their women or paying their women or whatever it might be, I mean, obviously amazing, great, but I just think we talk about these issues. I would always say it's not like it's some big bad wolf man from the big bad NFL. These are women.
Right. Women against women. Yeah.
And duct taping body parts and, saying horrible things. Like, it's not men, it's women. And so, I mean, I just think if we think of ways that we can be kinder to one another, I mean, just, because it would be so powerful. Like, I think the experience would be completely different for so many people if, there isn't this toxic culture and it's not something that's encouraged and rewarded and, because we know how it is, the dynamics when you're on a team. Sometimes that mean girl behavior is celebrated. It's elevated by the leadership themselves.
It is. It's promoted. It always seemed like that. The mean girls were the ones that were getting promoted. The troublemakers were getting promoted. The bullies were getting promoted. And I remember this one time at a Christmas party, we were actually all getting along. And I remember the director saying, you guys are so boring. Like, I'm leaving. Because, like, nobody was attacking anybody. Like, we were all just getting along. And she said that she was bored. And so she left the room and just left us to be there because there was no drama going on. And this is just a side note, but I think it's worth talking about, even hearing your opinion on it. One of the repeated main messages that I'm getting is, how can you call yourself a Christian? As an NFL cheerleader, I have had men tell me that I am to blame for all male sexual sin in the world. that if I was truly a child of God, why would I ever put myself in a uniform to be a sex object? And yeah, that basically, like, I'm not a real Christian. And when I spoke out, you know, like, you hear the Tim Tebows and the Sadie Robertsons, and, you know, they speak out and they have so much support. And it seems like every church in their back pocket is there. And I speak out, and not scandalous. And I was wondering, where were the churches? You know, where were the Christians? Where were my brothers and sisters? Where were the Tim Tebows? Where were the Sadie Robertsons? Why didn't I ever get an email or a DM or any type of, like, because I was reaching out to them. I remember I actually sent Sadie Robertson a message, and I was like, hey, I'm going through this as an NFL cheerleader, and you're much younger than me, but I just need support, you know, from other Christian women. And what do you think I should do? And, you know, she's famous, so she's not going to, like, check all her DMs. But once it hit the headlines, it was just crickets for the Christian community. And even the pastors who I sought out as mentors while I was actually going through it my third year, they didn't even reach out to me once it hit the public. And it was almost like people were ashamed, you know, to know me, to call myself a Christian while I'm an NFL cheerleader. So I don't know. I just feel like it's important to bring up. It's just important to me. It's something that bothers me. And where were my brothers and sisters at? And it was just silence. So.
Well, I think it's very, 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 very interesting. I still think it's like an episode in and of itself of, like, sexy image of NFL cheerleaders, and that, like, how fair is it or how far off is it in terms of, you know, I mean, because I take pride in my sexy, I like feelings. I mean, right. Empowering parts of it and this and that, but I do know there's so many boundaries around that and so many places where there are intersections that really clash. And I could see the sexy sex symbol image of an NFL cheerleader seeming at odds with, not that it's justifiable by any means, but just that it would create this conflict of,
it's a controversy. Yeah.
And I wouldn't have even have thought of everything that you've been through, that being a part of it too, just that it's actually to actually not be like, how can you call yourself a Christian because of being an NFL cheerleader? That's really unfair.
Yeah. I've had people, like, just even call me, like, the next Eve. It's been like,
oh man. We want to support you 100%. You know, for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders that you mentioned earlier, to very comfortably talk about their faith and not, I don't know if they're receiving a similar, you know, reaction from people in the Christian community, but you know, that's an interesting dynamic, and I'm glad that you raised that because it's not fair. And I think that NFL cheerleader image, and, you know, if you're being accused of being an Eve temptress, it's not fair, it's not right, and it definitely doesn't sound very Christian-like. I mean, just the way that they're treating you and ostracizing you and not showing that support. But we at the Pro Cheerleading Podcast freaking love you, and I just can't say enough that I'm glad you're getting your story out, and I'm excited to see your book hit bookstores and just being able to speak to so many women that I think either are going through it, will have at least a primer that they can think back on as they're pursuing this journey, because we know that it's not easy. And I just think what you're doing is amazing, and I understand what you're doing it for, and it just shows your character and your heart. So
well, I'm so thankful for both of you.
The door is wide open and you're not alone, period.
Appreciate you guys.
Period.
So much. Like, thank you guys for everything that you're doing. Like, the work that you're putting into it, the heart, just the work ethic of getting everyone's story out there, having women use their voice. Like, you guys are, these are the difference makers out here.
Thank you for saying that. And thanks for your time.
So thankful for finally being able to meet you. You've been an inspiration to both of us.